Well, so I am glad you just said that. And I know Pete is dying for me to address this. And he's probably not the only one. I know I saw Chris, a different Chris on Twitter. And I'm going to bring this up to you first, Juice. So you started to get, after 2 straight games of 3 interceptions per game, Tua today cracks the joke about, when did I say that I don't throw interceptions in bunches? He brought that up, which was interesting. But people are now speculating or believing, and it's particularly fans, that Tua should be benched. Give Ewers an opportunity. I went on Twitter and I said that that's absolutely ridiculous. You don't do it. You can't do it. Neither Ewers nor Wilson is deserving the opportunity. And to me, a healthy Tua is the Miami Dolphins starter, regardless of how bad he has played, and he has played poorly. Regardless of how bad he has been at the mic, and he has been pretty damn awful at the mic as well. Yeah. He is the friggin' starting quarterback of the Miami Dolphins as long as he's healthy, and I believe that all the way through this season. Juice, I'm going to start with you, and one of the reasons I said that, because I think I pissed people off because I said if you think otherwise, you don't know ball. People took that to heart. Maybe that was getting a little loose there because I was pissed off watching that damn game. But Juice, as a guy who played the game, and fortunately, none of the teams you played on were this bad. But if we ever had been in a situation like that, and Jimmy or Dave had walked up to you as a team leader, and here you are, year 6, year 7 in your career, have led the NFL in receptions, and they're like, hey, Juice, we're going to give Cade McNown a shot. We need to see what Cade's got. We need to just see what he's got. We want to see it in real action. We know Fiedler's better, or we know whoever is better, but we want to see Cade. Like, whose time's being wasted at that point?
Right.
I just don't know how you can look at Minkah Fitzpatrick, Jalen Waddle, any of those guys in the eye and say, yeah, we want to see what Ewers – you see what he does every day in practice. We saw what he did. He's not the fucking starting quarterback Tua is.
Right. You know, and Big Seth, it drives me crazy with that stuff too. You know, people have been giving me examples of, like Kirk Cousins got benched and Russ got benched and all this other stuff. Well, Kirk Cousins had a first-round pick waiting on him to play. You know what I mean? That's a whole different ball game. You look at Russ. I mean, hell, Peyton. He actually Sean Payton actually inherited Russ. He didn't really want Russ. It was easy for him to pull the trigger. You're talking about Mike McDaniel, who actually came in with the promise of making Tua the guy. Chris Greer making sure Tua got paid being the guy. So you're gonna put $53 million on the bench for a guy you picked up in free agency for $6 million and a 7th-round draft pick? That's a completely different story. And those guys, obviously Kirk Cousins and Russ, they're older guys. Tua should be in his prime. He should be in his prime, man. So there's no way you can bench him for those guys. You can bench him next year if you go out and get a 1st-round draft pick. But you can't do that this year when you've got the guys you picked. And I honestly feel like Quinn Ewers, when I watch him throw the football, he throws it like Tua does. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of zip on it. It's a fluttering football. He's willing to take the hit. We saw that. He made a completion to Eskridge, standing in the pocket making the hit. But at the same time, though, those arms don't translate in 10 to 20 mile an hour winds, and they really don't translate that much in the NFL anymore. And the fact that, I love Tua, but Tua's not willing to sit in there and take one. I get it. When you've been concussed that many times, I get it. You're not willing to sit there and take a hit. But the NFL, you got to sit there and take a hit sometimes, man. That's the game. Because, he missed at least 3 or 4 throws this year that were big throws because he was unwilling to step into it and take the nod.
And see, that's why I think that it's time to turn the page on McDaniel and Tua. Look, when Dave Hyde wrote a column about Chris Greer, the question he asked was, who's minding the store? And that's what I'm asking now, that, for the good of the franchise, do you really think Tua's going to do anything for the rest of this season? The man has 11 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. What I would like to know, if I'm Steve Ross or if I'm the organization, is do we have our bridge quarterback on the team? Is it Zach Wilson? Is it Quinn Ewers? I don't think either of those is your franchise quarterback. But until you get to your franchise quarterback in 2 or 3 years, who's going to play quarterback for you? Do you know you have that person? Do you need to look for another quarterback in the off season? You need to get these answers right now. And just like I think with Mike McDaniel, I think the team needs to hear another voice. I think with at the quarterback position, the team needs to explore other options. Who's minding the store? Who's looking out for the franchise? I understand that you don't want to piss off Minka Fitzpatrick and all these guys, but there's a bigger thing involved here. It's the franchise. Who's minding the franchise?
Right. Well, okay. So who's minding the franchise? You just, to Juice's point, you just gave this guy this contract, and a year later you're going to bench him for a seventh-round draft pick. Who, I don't care what anybody says. Let's see what he's got. Trust me, they see what he's got in camp. They see what he's got in practice. He's not Brock Purdy, folks. If you're saying, hey, maybe he'll be Brock Purdy, he's not Brock Purdy.
Right.
He can. Could he potentially develop into a backup quarterback that could play 10 years in this league? Sure. Just like Skylar Thompson still has a job. But guess what? He was not the starting quarterback, and some people were crying for him to be the starter at one point because I had a couple good preseason games. It's just Tua is the better player. He's playing terribly right now. Tua needs to figure something out and figure it out quickly. And if he can't, then hard decisions need to be made this offseason, some of which might be incredibly costly. But I promise you that there's no way Zach Wilson, there's no way Quinn Ewers are better than Tua Tagovailoa right now. There's just absolutely no way. And you just can't. That would be irresponsible to the franchise, and it would be irresponsible to the men in that locker room who are giving everything they can, even though they're playing poorly. You got the men in that locker room who are giving everything they can to try to keep playing, to try to be professionals, even in some shitty situations. If you say we're going to give this kid a shot, you've decided that you've quit. And now you're just experimenting. You can't do that on Sundays. You can't.
Yeah, and Big Seth, I was okay with Tua coming out of the game on Sunday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely fine with that.
I'm not saying he can't be pulled.
Correct.
He's just not the starter.
Not starting, man. I'm with you on that, man. And I just know that, I'm shocked. Here's what I'm shocked about, Perk, with that whole situation. And I said this in the pregame show, was that how can you elevate somebody from running scout team to being the backup when you don't get any reps with your own offense, unless he was getting reps all week with his own offense? Maybe you know more about that, and maybe because we don't know what goes on in practice. Maybe Zach was running scout team and Ewers was doing backup role, getting backup snaps. Because during the week you only get so many snaps, so we all know. You only get so many plays that you can go out there and actually run before, and so many looks that you can look at. But your starter usually gets all those, or majority of them. Right. Where the backup comes in and gets, if there's 20 plays, the backup might get 4 of them, because you only have so many reps, so on and so forth, So in order for him to feel like he can run the offense better than Zach can, when was he getting their offensive reps, which was my question. When was he getting our offensive reps compared to running scout team reps, unless he was doing it all week long?
Yeah, let me be clear about this. I think the backup quarterback thing was a joke. And I wrote that Sunday. I said that I'm not ripping Zach Wilson or Quinn Ewers. I'm ripping Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel. It's a ridiculous situation and a more ridiculous explanation that we think Quinn Ewers gives us a better chance to win in this specific game against this specific defense. What?
I've never heard anything.
What the hell is that? And so when I say that I think that you should see what you have at quarterback, I'll be clear about this too. I don't think Tua should be your starter next year. I say get Greer out, get McDaniel out, get Tua out, turn the page right now. That's what I'm saying, Seth. If I thought that Tua would be your starter next year, yeah, let him start for the rest of the year. I think Tua's time is done here. It's as done as Mike McDaniel's time. Turn the page, look out for the franchise. Stop looking out for 2025. 2025 is done. Look out for the franchise.
Perk, you cannot take the position at 1-6 with how many games left? 10 games left to play.
Yep.
That this season's over. You cannot do that organizationally. You can't.
Here's the thing. Steven just made a post right there. Made a statement right there. If the Dolphins, and I don't know if the Dolphins took Tua out of that game because they're worried about him health-wise, that's ridiculous right there, and I hope that's not the case. But they'll let Ewers go in there and get beat up a little bit, and protect Tua. Back to what I always want to say, man, is that Tua's got to be able to, and I don't think he can anymore, Perk, and I don't think he ever did really. He's got to be able to sit in there, man, and I don't think that that's going to happen in the future. I think that ship has sailed when it comes to him sitting in there willing to take the whole offense is designed around Tua getting the ball out fast, reading it fast. Hell, one interception he threw down the middle on the single high safety, man. Nobody does that. Nobody does it. A lot of his throws are blind throws now. One, because he can't see sometimes, but for two, he turns his back to him. There's been a shift in his play that will not work in this league right now because of our team's fear factor of him getting hit, and I think also it's in his head that he doesn't want to get hit either, man. And it's detrimental to the team and the operation. It really is, and I feel bad for him, and we've had this in our text message, Big Seth, that I get that nobody wants to get hit in the league, but football, you get hit in football.
I mean, it's a game of getting hit.
Position.
Yeah.
And you watch some of these other quarterbacks, you see them sit in and get hit when they deliver these dimes, but they know, and that's why as a wide receiver, man, that I knew Danny was going to sit in there and take a hit. Right. I better catch this fucking ball, man, because I know he's about to get clobbered, man. Or I'm assuming he's going to get clobbered, so I better be willing to get clobbered too. So
Juice, if you know this as a retired player, don't you think the current players know this? And so when you talk about giving your team the best chance to win, what do you think they think about Tua? Do you think if they see these same things, that Tua's not willing to stay in there, that Tua's worried about his next concussion, does he really give you the best chance to win?
I don't know if they feel that way, Perk. I'm just saying that's how that's what I see when I observe. Maybe they don't see that.
Don't you think the players see that?
I don't know.
I think they do, Perk. But this is what I can tell. In my opinion, neither Juice or I are sitting there talking to active players. But we've been around active players, and Juice has been one and been a captain of players that we loved and cheered for, and you covered, and so on and so forth. I'm sure that they see that, whether they feel he's lost his stinger or he's turning things away or what have you. But they also know what the operation looks like when it's not him. And we got a glimpse of that last year. And granted, it was two different backup quarterbacks. It's not Wilson and it wasn't Ewers. But this team and the way this offense has been designed and tailor-made for Tua, and the way that he, now the ball's been going to the wrong place, but the way that he operates that offense, and he knows the offense inside and out. He absolutely does. Again, I am not sitting here defending, and I'm not a Tua stan or whatever the word is. He's playing terribly. He's absolutely playing terribly. Yeah. But I believe that if either of those other two guys gets in for an entire game, it is going to remind us of Seattle last year. Right. It is going to remind us of Tyler Huntley. They're not ready to run this offense and at a capable level. They just are not. And I know it sounds silly because it's a 1-6 team. Mike Olivia, who I have all the respect for, he said, Seth, we're not talking about a 500 team. We're saying if they get to 1-10, 1-11. If they get to 1-10, 1-11, Mike, let's meet back in this space and we'll revisit this conversation. But you cannot bench Tua Tagovailoa right now. You're essentially saying we quit. If you bench Tua right now, you are saying we quit. And I know fans want to see something different. I know media, clearly, with you sitting here, Chris, I know media members are saying this is over. You have to start thinking about next year. When you get paid to show up for 17 weeks, even if you're playing like dog shit, you have to go to work every day and try to be a professional. That's the job.
You cannot bench Tua too, because from the money. If people say whatever, the money is a huge factor here.
Has to be.
The money's a huge factor. You can't go to Stephen Ross and ask for all this money and then put that money on the bench, Perk. You cannot do that. The money's spent. It's wasted. Well, for this year, this year's money is where it's at. So what are you going to do about next year, which is going to be if you cut him before June 1, it's like we're still $99 million dead on him. So you're not going to get your money's worth out of this? You're not going to ride your tires on your car until the wheels fall off? You're going to go get some new ones. You going to get some new ones, Perk?
That's the wheels are off. I'm getting some bald ass used tires from around the way. I'm getting some Quinn Ewers tires, some Zach Wilson tires. Had no tread on it, but I don't give a damn. I mean, I'm sorry. Look, it's this season. To me, this season now becomes about looking out for the franchise's future. Like the present is done. I'm taking my Russell Wilson Denver Broncos financial pain in 2026. Tua's done. Mike McDaniel is done. Chris Greer is done. I'm
But they're
looking
not.
to the future.
If they were done, they wouldn't be in the building right now. They'd be cleaning their shit out.
Okay,
Joey
but
would
you're
be sending up an intern with a big, giant, clear plastic bag. We've seen it. Actually, the coaches and GM probably would get nice cardboard boxes, but they would be out. They're not done because Stephen Ross hasn't pulled the plug.
But
They're still there.
But that's
But they have to go do their job. They have to do their job, Perk, and it would be irresponsible to start either of those other two guys. There you
Okay,
go.
Seth.
Kim Bocamper, the Killer Bees, 1980s, 2 Super Bowls. And he has been hypercritical. Kim Bocamper just told us that Tua Tagovailoa played the worst football game in the history of NFL quarterbacks that he'd ever seen in his life. And he just said, you cannot bench Tua. You can't do it. Now, look, I'm just some idiot former PR guy. I get it.
You're not an
O.J.
idiot.
McDuffie
You're not an idiot, Big Sam. You're just a former
I'm
PR
borderline.
guy.
But O.J. McDuffie is telling you can't bench him. Kim Bocamper's telling you can't bench him. You can't bench him. Can't do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think
I've spoken. I've got a different opinion. I just think if you go into next season not knowing whether Zach Wilson or Quinn Ewers could be your bridge quarterback, you've really messed up this season. Like really messed it up. What are you going to get? What are you planning on getting out of the rest of this season, Seth?
you're not getting anything out of the rest of the season.
Do I have to go Herm Edwards on you?
No, you play to win the games.
That's it.
Yeah.
You get 17 friggin' opportunities, and every week you have to go out, and it doesn't matter. Look, when the Dolphins went friggin' 1-15,
Yep.
the Cam Cameron, which there was a Cam Cameron reference in here. This is a second Cam Cameron reference. It tells you where the season's at. So when the Dolphins went 1-15, there was the game against New England where they pull Tom Brady because they're whooping our ass, and Matt Castle comes in, and the first pass that he throws is a pick six. JT picks it off, takes it into the end zone. He does the jump man in the end zone. And Cam Cameron, instead of saying, hey, look, I wish the rest of you guys would fucking fight and play like your future Hall of Fame team captain here, he rips JT in the team meeting and said that he was showboating in a game that they were losing. So to me, Cam Cameron had the mentality of, well, hey, let's go start Quinn Ewers. The players want to play to win every damn time they get out there. And if they don't want to play to win, those are the guys you got to get rid of. I'm telling you guys, that's the way football players think. I'm telling you.
I understand that. I understand that. But again, if you're Steve Ross, you're not looking at 2025 anymore. You're looking at 2026 and beyond. Who's minding the store? Who's looking out for the franchise? Not the 2025 team. Who's looking out for the good of the franchise in the long run, in the big picture?
That's why everyone's mad that Chris Greer's out scouting quarterbacks. That's what he should be doing until they tell him he shouldn't be doing it anymore. But when it comes to lining up on Sunday, it's Mike McDaniel's job to give the team the best opportunity to win. Are they doing a poor job of it? Absolutely, because they're 1-6 and they just got blown out by a 1-5 Cleveland Browns team. But it's their job to put the best person out there. And Tua's the best person, and it ain't even close. It ain't even close, guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm with you on the Tua stuff, man. It's like, but here's the thing, too. This whole entire offense is designed around Tua. Everything about it is Tua. So you just can't bring anybody off the street, learn a playbook, and you can run an offense. You can't bring Joe Flacco might not even be able to run this offense. He can run any offense, it seems like. So you look at the whole thing, the way this whole thing is designed. It's like, who else is going to run it? And that means, like you're talking about, Chris, that means not only does Tua have to go, Mike has to go, because they're attached at the hip from that offense. That whole offense is Tua.
The left hip or the right hip? Don't ask Frank Smith.
Right.
He's not sure.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm with you on that. But my problem is right now, no matter what, you've got to put Tua out there as a starter until, it gets to the point like he did in the Browns game, you got to replace him. And if that continues, then the hell with it. You just got to replace him completely. But you've got to continue to give him these opportunities. Now, we already know that Tua couldn't play in Tennessee a couple of years ago. We knew he, obviously can't play with a wet ball in Cleveland, light wind, whatever it might have been. He's got a chance in Atlanta this week, and we'll see what happens. Now, if he goes out there and if Tua, oh my God, if Tua goes out there and throws multiple picks again this week, I'm with some of these other people with nobody. I'm going back to start, Big Seth. I'm going back as the emergency quarterback for the team. You know what I mean? When I was scared to death that I almost got called in before you were allowed to dress 3 of them. Perk, I was emergency quarterback for 2 weeks, man. Man, I was scared. I couldn't even worry about receiver. I was worried about the quarterbacks getting hurt. I'm like, yo, you better get up. You better get your ass up. I'm not going. I've never played quarterback in my life. But, but if he goes in there, honestly, and has another – excuse my French, shit show. I've been cussing the whole game, but so what? That's
we're pissed off.
Then we gotta do something, man, because you're right about some things too, Perk and Seth. You got a lot of guys on that football team that all they want to do is go out there and win. They got some guys. We got a lot of guys. You don't even know which ones they are. This is their last year of football, or next to last year of football. So they're all they care about is winning. At this point, hell, some of them might just be worried about getting that direct deposit, and that's a bigger.
But let me say this about when you get back to the offense and it's made specifically for Tua, that's a flaw. Again, who's minding the store? Why do you have an offense that's made for one quarterback?
Yeah,
an injury-prone quarterback. You should have an offense that's more quarterback-friendly because you know that you might need that backup quarterback. But the offense isn't made for him. This is an organizational flaw. Who was looking out for the franchise? Why didn't somebody say, hey, Mike McDaniel, make a more quarterback-friendly offense because Tua is injury-prone, and if we have to play a backup quarterback, he's screwed, and we're screwed. Again, you've got to look out for the franchise.
I agree with that. I agree with everything you just said, and that little put the parentheses around the I agree with all of that, Perk. I think that even now they should, someone just put there in the chat, who was it? Somebody just put in there, I'd love to see them line up against Atlanta with no motion. The Falcons wouldn't know what to do because it's just not who we are or who we've been. Mike McDaniel said everything should be on the table. Should they look? You guys talked about that today in the presser. What does that mean if you say everything's on the table? Should you reevaluate? And he actually gave a really, I thought, in-depth answer as to all the different things that he was evaluating, run-pass ratios, all of this stuff. I do think all of that should be explored. But in every one of those scenarios, the starting quarterback should be Tua Tagovailoa.